band Genesis on the road.
I remember we were once described by an East Grinstead local paper as a folk blues jazz rock mystical group.
Genesis are at their best in concert. Nearly everywhere they play, they take the audience by storm. And last year they were voted #1 live band in the world. This film is about the group and the 100 people behind them. The roadies, the truckers, the sound team, the lighting crew, the engineers and the management. More background personnel than a symphony orchestra. We follow them on 3 European dates, from Mannheim, across Germany, to Leiden in Holland, then over the channel to the Rock Music Festival at Knebworth in England. Although they're rarely in the hit parade, Genesis are a supergroup, one of perhaps 5 groups in the world that always sell out, one of the few bands that can even fill the huge American halls. The millions of fans are there for more than just the sound. 200 jumbo jet lights change exactly to the music. The special effects would make a Hollywood mogul proud. The amplifiers are loud enough to drive 10,000 neighbours wild. Phil Collins on vocals and drums. Tony Baggs on keyboards. Mike Rutherford on guitar. You might not have heard of them, but they have a massive following among the young that take rock music seriously. First, the group themselves. And in the beginning was Charterhouse.
A carved oak table tells a tale of times when kings and queens sipped wine from goblets gold, and the brave would lead their ladies from out the room to Arden's cool.
It might seem odd that a successful rock band should have started out at a major public school. The tradition was for Vaughan Williams and the classics, not rock music, so the influence of Charterhouse is limited to being the place where the group first met.
We used to just sort of play together in dining rooms and things like that. Various people in the school used to do the same sort of thing, going around with, drum kit that was made up of a sort of snare drum and one bass drum and things. And just trying to sort of imitate these kind of groups.
Was it encouraged?
I wouldn't say it was encouraged, no. In fact, it wasn't as discouraged as it might have been. It depended a lot on your particular housemaster. I think Mike suffered a lot of discouragement.
I was banned from playing guitar throughout my whole career there.
Really?
Although I did, but I wasn't. I had a funny housemaster, yes. It was a very sort of strange period. But it probably made me do it even more. You know what it's like when you're not allowed to do something.
In spite of the opposition, they survived the discipline and left in '68 to form a professional group with Peter Gabriel as singer. Over the next couple of years, the band was constantly changing, and in the summer of 1970, they auditioned for a drummer, and finally chose Phil Collins, previously the drummer with Flaming Youth.
And it was quite funny because the day I'd auditioned, they had about 4 or 5 other drummers down there. And I was the first there, but not the first to be seen. So they had a swimming pool in the back garden. It was luxury compared to what I was used to. And we used £5 a week in Flaming Youth, And here was £10 a week, which was, by those standards, quite extortionate. Anyway, they had a swimming pool, and Peter invited us both to go swimming, myself and Ronnie. And so we went swimming. And all the time, I was listening to the other guys doing their parts. And of course, they were offering the same, they were auditioning the same kind of pieces for everybody. So by the time I got to play, I knew all the bits, you see. So I walked in there pretty slick, you know, and I sort of made it sound a bit hard, and then I'd play along, and I suppose I impressed everybody, so I got the job.
His background was theatrical and could hardly be more different from the rest. He started acting when he was 6 and finally went professional in his teens as the Artful Dodger.
Yeah, when I was on my 14th birthday, actually, that was when I first did my first professional job. Although I did some modelling, you know, like for knitting patterns and stuff, which is all rather embarrassing.
Knitting patterns, really?
Yeah, well, you see, my mother was involved in a theatrical agency for kids. I did a lot of other things. I did television, half-hour, 30-minute theatres, BBC Two and stuff like that, which was okay. But the last thing I did was a film, a children's film, called Calamity the Cow, which has just been re-released, and featuring Phil Collins from Genesis, it said.
Really?
Which,
do you like your performance?
I've never seen it. I'd like to go and see it. I had to drag along one of my children to Saturday morning picture. But I fell out with the director, you see, because at that time I was starting to grow up a little bit and had my own idea as to how my part should be played. And I was supposed to be the main kid in the film. But because I didn't really sort of see eye to eye with the guy, I went on holiday somewhere during the film. You know, he wrote me out of the film. And I went on holiday halfway through and came back just in time to rescue the cow.
Dad, you said I could have a cow of my own. Can I have this one?
Oh, now hold on. I'm in one of our herd.
You said I could choose.
Yes, you did. That's right, Dad.
It looks like you're in a spot. Sell? Well, the same to me. All right, I'll take her. We're going to have to buy you beforehand. Very, very nice.
By early 1973, they were already attempting the technical sophistication that's routine for them today. But 5 years ago, it fell apart. They desperately needed a manager and turned to a promoter, Tony Smith, for help.
And the first date was in Glasgow. And I arrived up in Glasgow to see them, and total chaos on the stage, absolute chaos. And finally, we had to cancel the show because they had something like 400 volts of electricity running through every single piece of equipment on the stage. Could not walk on the stage. And I had to cancel the show in Glasgow, which is not the easiest of places to cancel shows, especially when the audience are in. And after that, I went back to the hotel and I sat down with them and said, look, you really ought to get a manager, because at that point they didn't have a manager as such. They had a lawyer and they had a chap who was trying to do his best on the road, but just couldn't cope with it. And so they thought about that. And then towards the end of the tour, they came to me and said, well, you know, you're saying we should get a manager, why don't you do it? So I said, okay. And that's when my trouble started.
Since then, with slick management and constant touring, they've gradually become internationally successful. These days, the really big bands depend on LP sales, and Genesis albums have sold millions. They've slowly evolved into a fairly highbrow group with a reputation for never playing a bad concert. And if they're not household names, it's because their music, although melodic, would never go down in the discos.
We never expected to become successful, I don't think, really, although we always had the confidence that we could do it. It's a kind of a double thing. We always knew that we were a good group, that if we kept going and we had a few breaks, which we have had, that we could be successful, I suppose, from that point of view. But then you never feel you're actually going to get those breaks. There are so many moments. It takes such a long time. I mean, Genesis has, in fact, existed in one form or another for 10 years. And you just don't feel you're ever really going to sort of get there.
Are you surprised to be where you are now?
Yes, when I think about it, I never thought we'd get anywhere like this. But then you can never look that far ahead. When I was starting off, I thought if we played a marquee club in London, I thought, Christ, we made it, you know, success. But when you got there, the marquee club was like history, and it wasn't important, and you go for the next thing. There's always another stage.
My job is almost like running a factory, in as much that you have the group, which you could describe as a design team, and the originators, and also the board of directors, and then you have the road crews, and you have the merchandising organisation, i.e. the record companies, you have the legal department, accounts. It's running a factory, basically. I mean, when we're on the road, and we're talking about involving, if you include the people that work on the road, we're involving up to 100 people one way or another.
100 people, controlled by manager Smith, but all dependent on 3 travelling musicians. In the middle of May, we joined Genesis in Europe to film behind the scenes of that massive touring operation. In an average year, Genesis will spend more than 6 months touring. 200 nights in different hotels and halls, the different countries merging into one ecstatic crowd. When we joined them late on a Thursday night, 11,000 Germans were leaving the Ice Stadium in Mannheim with decibeled ears and British music in their hearts. Before the last fans have left, the operation has already started. How to get a stage full of lights and sound gear reassembled and working 350 miles away in Holland by Saturday lunchtime. Behind the group are the 37 members of a tough, highly paid and highly strung road crew. This is an 8-hour day compressed into as little time as possible. In the 2 hours it takes for the band to eat and wind down, some of the most sophisticated rock equipment yet invented is put to bed. 20 tons of lighting, staging, faders, speakers, lasers, mirrors, drums, microphones, guitars and organs to be packed away. And tonight the German stagehands, who usually come with the hall, had unexpectedly gone home. What's happened to the stagehands?
That's what I'd like to know. They all split. I don't know. You know, usually it takes, we have a 13-man light crew, 5-man sound crew, which is like 18 to 20 people all together to do this, and we're supposed to have 20 extra people here that the house and the local promoter provides, and they help us set down, and then right now, they're all gone. There's nobody here. They're all gone.
Afterwards, the road crew count the cost in grazed knees, crushed fingers and fatigue. All that's left behind, like graffiti, is the rubbish. Everything else is in the trucks. Like the rock band they service, the trucks are noisy, modern and effective. At 2:30 on the Friday morning, they leave Mannheim to drive halfway across Europe to the Dutch border. trucks, like the band, come from England. Edwin Shirley Trucking have their headquarters on a farm in Kent and lead the world in the rock trucking business. For the Genesis tour, they had 8 300-horsepower tractors, each with 40-foot trailers and a £65,000 luxury coach for the crew. As the shows get more and more complicated, the groups have to go further afield to find halls big enough to show a profit. For the driver, it's a job of stamina and youthful endurance, sleeping during the day, driving throughout the night.
How long can you keep it up? Another 5 years, 10 years?
Oh, that's a difficult question, isn't it?
It's not a career, is it?
After 9 years, at the moment, I don't know. It's impossible to say. So far, everything's going okay. I'm not about to give it up tomorrow, but you never can tell. It's when you're away all the time, never no home really, just gypsy on the road. You can only do it for so long, but I don't know how much longer I can do it for.
How do you feel about the way you've seen the rock music industry change? In the old days, it was a Ford Transit.
Well, out of the Transits, obviously it's good for us as a transport company, but I must say that a lot of the time it seems to be on the overkill side of things. It's interesting that the groups are prepared to spend that much money on a production because it is expensive to carry around this much equipment and this number of people, 30 people on this tour in the crew, over 30.
Well, the trucks alone have cost, about 50,000 for the 4-week tour?
Just about. The trucks and the bus together, yeah, a bit over 50,000. It's a lot of money, but the group won't appear without the production behind them. And I think that's probably a good point in their favour because they could sell as many tickets and make as much money with a very small production. But they want to give value for money to the kids.
If international rock music knows no barriers, the equipment does. The customs. Whatever else they tell you about the common market, petty papers, minute regulations and enormous carnets live on. It took 18 stamps, 3 desks and nearly 2 hours to pass from Germany into Holland, a journey often smoothed and oiled by gifts of LPs and T-shirts. For the coach, the problem is different. How to get through without waking up everyone on board.
How many people are you with you?
I've got 12 passengers and myself, that's 13.
Can I
yeah, sure.
have a look? Bye.
See you next time.
Okay.
On several of the shows, the lighting crew won't finish until 3 in the morning and they'll have to start at the next show at 8 the same morning. So obviously they need a special kind of transport. Well, this is the latest thing in crew luxury, the crew coach. For a start, the seats have got special air rider suspension system. And then at the back, firstly, a very essential toilet. And then in here, a specially mirrored shower. Fascinating if you want to see yourself rather than the TV. And of course, back here, the kitchen area. A fridge for the beer, a sink here, and up the top, a cooker. I'm talking fairly quietly as well because back there are 13 members of the lighting crew asleep. Noticed the thing change in the last 10 years?
Well, the first thing I noticed was when I went to America. Everybody's so professional over there. And we were just, oh, well, if it happens, it happens. But they were professional. And now over here, it is as professional as it was 5 years ago in America. Everybody has to know their job. I mean, the people I carry on here, they may not look very nice, but they're very, very educated and skilled people. They're electricians and lighting designers. They're
the top.
They're the top. I mean, they earn a lot of money, so they expect to ride around in something that's a little more than a seat.
It's now 9:20 on the Saturday morning. I'm tired, the truckers are tired, the crew are tired, but already they've converted an old cattle market into the beginnings of a pop arena. In a few minutes, they'll have clipped the last of 200 lights onto the gantries, and the hard physical work will have finished. Then the technology begins.
There's so much technology behind the Genesis show, you sometimes wonder what it's for. Is it the music or a demonstration of electronic perfection? The machinery of modern rock has outgrown its origins. There are 96 lighting channels with lights at every conceivable angle. And then, of course, there's the laser.
Well, this is my control panel here, and I don't know whether you can pick this up. It's awful bright in here. All right, so what I'm doing is working out effects with the man that operates the mirrors, trying to get a little more punch out of everything. So I'll open up the fader, and I'll see if we can't get you something you might be able to take a picture of.
Why do you need a computer for mirrors?
Basically, it gives you more even tracking over all 6 of the mirrors at one time, and you can run 3, 2, 1, however many combinations you want to.
It's a bit much, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's a little bit overboard, but you keep getting up with special effects.
The 6 10-foot mirrors weigh 1.5 tons, were designed in Holland, built in England, and are operated through a chip memory system by an American. By 6 o'clock, a recording studio, a complete theatre's lighting, a computer, and a full-size stage had come 541 kilometers and were working perfectly.
1, 2, 1, 2.
The show had been sold out 4 weeks ago. 12,000 Dutch fans paying £60,000 to get the nearest possible seats to the enormous speakers.
How are you going to get away back after the show?
Within a few minutes, the Groningen Hall no longer smelt like a cattle market. The air was so full and aromatic, you could get stoned just by being there. Cattle wouldn't like it, your mother wouldn't like it, but the Dutch loved it. For the second performance running, the Genesis Electronic Jamboree scored a hit. Just before midnight, the whole process will start again. The truckers will drive through the night, the crew will sleep on their bus, and the group will wind down at yet another hotel. The Groenenhall will go back to being a cattle market once again, while another part of Europe is invaded by British sound, all leading up to the big one, the only concert the band will play in England, at Knebworth. An outdoor rock festival in front of 50,000 is the sharp end of the music business. Professionalism reigns supreme. A few mistakes could lead to a riot, and worse, a loss of a performing license. What the promoter needs is a softly banked hill, surrounded if possible by trees. 4,000 sheets of corrugated iron to keep out the gatecrashers. A metallic roadway to keep out the mud. And a 90-foot stage that took 5 weeks to build. Like nothing else on Earth, a rock festival preens itself on details. It isn't very often 10 coin box phones are requested for the middle of a field. Give them enough notice and the post office will provide. For the council, a rock festival means a series of meetings, public safety and public order, trying, they say, to keep the public happy.
It's quite a complex operation, really, isn't it?
It is, much more than the public think. Imagine you just put a stage up, plug in, and put a couple of amplifiers, and away you go. But it's really, you're starting off with all the meaning of quite a large town. That's public health, safety, welfare, medical services. And for instance, there are at least 250 trained personnel on the Red Cross and the ambulance, and that includes about 14 doctors, and they do a wonderful job.
It's like running a town for a day, really, isn't it?
It is. You provide everything that a large town has for one day. Food and not even the amusement.
Are you worried that things might go wrong on this one?
Not worried. You're always a bit anxious when you've got a great number of people like this, and you're glad when it's over. But I wouldn't say I'm directly worried. You're concerned that it shall go off all right.
At first, they were anxious about the laser, firing off at aircraft. But after they had a word with the operator and watched the group practice, they gave it the okay. Everything about a rock festival takes its character from the band. Genesis, they decided, were a sensible group.
Many too many stood where I stand. Many more stand here too. Strange is the way you got me up and knocked me down again. Heart was fun, and now it's over.
Real, human, self-critical. Three normal people in an extraordinary business. The kind of group that take their wives and children on tour with them.
But this year we're doing a series of shorter tours rather than that one long tour of America. We're doing 3 short ones. So we're never away for more than 3 or 4 weeks. And if families join you, then it's not so bad. It breaks it up a bit.
How much of your life do you actually spend on the road?
How much of my life? I reckon I'm told about 6 or 7 months of the year, but it never actually feels like that because it's split up quite a lot. You know, I mean, I've been playing in professional bands since I was about 14, so I mean, I've been on the road quite a while.
Do you get fed up on the road?
No, I find in America, tours kind of have different characters. You know, like in America, most tours are kind of easy to get on with because you can. There's no language barriers, there's nothing like that. And everything's done for your convenience. Whereas in Europe, say, it's a bit more tiring because you have to continually have menus translated and this kind of stuff. You want to eat, and then you can't eat between 3 and 5. And so it's a bit more of a hassle. I mean, I quite like touring, but when you're on tour, you want to be off, and when you're off tour, you want to be on. It's one of those things.
I never expected to go into it being in a group. It was really just the chance came. And, you know, I really felt that in the very early days of Genesis, when we hadn't played to anyone, that we could be a very good group. And so I decided to leave university where I was at the time and do it instead.
Are you glad you did that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the experience I've had is in the last 10 years since I took that decision. I've been, you know, incredibly sort of fulfilling, if you like. I've just done so much and done an awful lot of, you know, I've been to an awful lot of places and things like that. There's an awful lot I haven't seen as well, but I think there are a few jobs that let you see as much as this one does.
Will you give it up, the road, one day?
Well, yes, as like this, I think. I mean, I don't really want to play these big concerts too many more times. I mean, this is like Nebworth, for instance, is something different because it's such a big thing. But like on tour, in general, I'd much prefer to be playing. Now we've done the 18,000 or 20,000 seaters, and we prove we can do it to ourselves and to other people. It'd be nice to go back into playing small clubs or small theatres. This is what I would like to do, isn't it? And so I can see that maybe myself would go back, still be playing in clubs in front of people in maybe 10 years' time, but obviously not doing this kind of thing.
You do it for the music, really, don't you?
Yes, so that's the reason why I do it.
It's not for the money.
It's not for the money, but the money, I mean, you know, this is an over-rewarded job, and it makes it very easy to take the sort of bad part of the job, I suppose, you know. That's the only factor.
What can you do in the future now?
I don't know. I want to try and keep on writing music for as long as I can, but I wouldn't mind at some point doing something totally different. But what that would be, I have no idea.
You couldn't really be on the road at 40, could you?
I don't know. Well, we're coming up to seeing people who are still on the road, you know, in the 30s and late 30s, I mean, the Stones and things. I think it's quite interesting to see what, you know, how these people make out. They still seem to be doing very, very well and performing very well. So I don't think it's necessarily. It's just because rock music is a thing of the last sort of 20 years that people have never seen older people in rock groups. But I don't see why in the future that should be a rare thing at all.
Do you see it as a job?
Yeah, it's a job. But also a very lucky job, because not many people are able to do something that probably brings them more pleasure, work-wise, than anything else, and yet they're able to call it their job. So in a way, I feel very lucky in that sense.
Are you all millionaires and that kind of thing?
No, we're not millionaires.
What sort of house would you have? A huge house in the country or just an ordinary house?
I've got an ordinary house at the moment.
Just ordinary people, really?
Oh, no, well, I wouldn't say that. Yes, fairly average.
Their major fear for the festival was ordinary too, the weather. However they played, success would be washed away by rain. The sound check was virtually ruined. The arena became soggy. If it was like this on Saturday, the fans would have 16 hours in the rain, and even the band would need Wellingtons. Altogether on this site, they've got 450 of these loos, 300 feet of urinal, and they'll need them. Because over the back, they're delivering 180,000 cans of Coca-Cola, and that's got to be disposed of somewhere. The statistics at a rock festival are intimidating. 25,000 sandwiches, a 7-ton lorry load of meat pies and sausage rolls, 2 Arctics full of tea and coffee, a truck of sweets and ices from Bristol, 20 ice cream stalls and a 50-outlet catering service. By Friday night, the gently sloping field looked like Brighton before a sunny Saturday, and the promoter was calming down. Do you know how much money you will make when the whole thing is added up?
That's a great question to ask me. No, I'm afraid I don't. At the moment, I mean, as you can know, you probably don't see because you've just really come in at a fairly quiet moment. But things escalate all the time. You know, backstage, our requirements because of the rain mean we need all sorts of extras, and these add to the cost all the time.
Is there a chance you could lose money? Not really,
I don't know. It's again, on this particular concert, I think we're reasonably in good shape there. But when you have rain and additional problems and additional expenses, certainly that's one of the times when you could.
Why do you do it?
To make a living, I suppose, should be the obvious thing to say, but probably because it's a challenge. It's quite a sort of an exercise, which I like to think I do well, and I like to think I can do better each time.
No one, probably not even Freddie Bannister, could say for certain how many would actually come to the festival. But already, a whole day early, a compact village of tents had assembled outside.
French? Yeah. You've not come all the way from France with us, have you? Really? Yeah. How'd you get here?
Hovercraft. Trained hovercraft.
And
I've been
all the way from France for this. You're obviously fans, aren't you?
Yeah, of course.
Have you got a tent?
No.
Aren't you going to get wet?
Maybe. Genesis
How
are
are you
here.
doing? 3:30 in the morning, right?
Genesis are here. Does not matter.
Oh, it sure does if it's raining.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, well.
Phil Collins will make it all right in the next day.
I wish you a pleasant evening.
Thank you.
See you there.
Okay. Allez, bye bye. Au revoir. People, il est le sac.
The campsite bedded down like an army the night before battle. Alarms were set early. First in would get the best patch of grass. The security was overpowering. 500 volunteers, many from the army, were paid £20 to politely see that no one went where they shouldn't. The crowd looked skyward. If £5.50 seems a lot for a ticket, most of the fans would have paid double that for sunshine. There were headaches and migraines, asthmas and fractures, cuts and burns, and epileptic fits. But above all, there was patience. They waited 13 weekend hours on damp grass in cold wind before the top of the bill came on.
The sound of a scream from below. He thinks he is a warrior, so he picks up his sword and goes. From the mouth of the monster, he rescues the maiden fair. Ah, but we know she's a demon, come to lure him to the demon's lair. Through restless foliage, tall trees he leads to a house in a clearing, a place in Hafia she calls home. Him to enter in with her. There was something in her manner that his mind could not ignore. Also it is whispered in the kingdom far and wide to beware that little cottage in the forest in a glade. For who knows what magic takes place in this world. So we just thank so kindly, preparing to go on his way. Something it. We had everything arranged. So glad you saw fit to play the call. Some men never listen, and others never learn. But why this man did as he did, only he will ever know. He knew he was walking into a waiting trap, neatly set up for him with a bait so richly wrapped. So he went inside there to take on what he found, but he never escaped them. For who can escape what he desired? Come with me, I need you. I live dark and I live all alone. I'll give you wonderful too, and something special I've done. If you
Within an hour, 5 weeks of planning will have come to an end. The crowd would be left to shuffle home through the dark. The trucks would be revving up at the ramp behind the stage, the equipment back on the continent by Tuesday. But for the moment, the Technological Orchestra was working, a group of musicians caring first about the music.